what stresses you out the most? Is it money? Is it family, health, the job? If you're resonating with job being the thing that stresses you out the most, what if you could be working a dream job or a dream career or a dream business instead? How much closer would that bring you to the center of calmness? Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Center of Calmness. And today we are super blessed to have Jenny Ulen with us. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Glad for you to join us. If I might ask, how are things in your neck of the woods these days with the COVID, with all the economic weirdness going on? What's happening up there?
Well, COVID fear is alive and well and rampant in Massachusetts, which is where I'm coming from tonight. And we're also expecting a nor'easter storm. It's expected to dump about a foot of snow overnight. So everyone's on the edge about that.
Yeah. So nice little bit of adventure for you.
That's right. Got the shovels out, got the rock salt. We're ready to go here.
Yeah. If we were to get that much snow in Houston, I think we'd consider it the end of the world. Pretty much.
Right.
But I think
we've had. For us, we're prepared for this kind of weather, so
yeah, for sure.
Not a big deal. Not a big deal. I think they're going to close school.
Oh, are they gonna close school or not?
Yeah, they already announced it.
Oh, well, okay. So
that makes the kids happy.
Yeah, the kids love it. The parents hate it, but anyway.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you just to review kind of where your journey led you so far. You went to Harvard, specialized, focused in marketing. Enjoyed a wonderful career in the healthcare space, developing brands with some big brands, Procter and Gamble, and who were some of the other companies you worked with?
Johnson & Johnson and Boston Scientific.
And Boston Scientific as well. So a lot of big names. And how did you find that experience, just going through that yourself and helping others, or helping build product lines and brands for others to leverage and enjoy the benefits of those?
I really enjoyed that aspect of my job the most. My background's in psychology, so I've always been attuned to people and very keen on listening, which I think is a key skill set when we go into the job search modality. So following my MBA, I did go and work in the healthcare space and found myself building brands in orthopedics and anesthesia, major chunks of the healthcare industry, and then decided to take a break and do what really I love to do, which is to perform and to act. So that's what I've been doing for the past 20 years, improvisational acting, and also launching my business for the past 10 years, which is called Land My Dream Job, which helps people access what lights them up inside and helps them do it.
Excellent. So if we could revisit that moment when you decided, okay, building brands is exciting and all, but I'm just going to take a pause on that and go into improv. Can you take us through what that experience was like and what you were feeling and kind of what motivated that choice?
Sure. It's not necessarily obvious, but going from working on a Fisher Nut brand and getting that central space on the cabinet, on the aisle at your Big Y or your Star Market, how do I then become an improv actress? Well, I often felt when I was performing in front of boards of directors and meetings that I was just an actress in a suit. And I had a spiel, I had a semi-script that I was working off of, but usually I was winging it. I mean, obviously I knew what I was talking about, but it was very impromptu and in the moment. So there came a time around the year 2000, 2001, when I felt like I was spending a lot of time working for this startup organization, helping them get very wealthy on Wall Street. And I thought, I'm trading my time for their money, and that doesn't seem right, especially since I'm not happy. I'm on a plane half the time and didn't get to see my young children as much as I wanted to. So I thought, let's stop the music here and regroup. And so that was the turning point for me in year 2000, 2001.
Gotcha. Just the life balance, or specifically not enough time with your children,
Yeah, and also feeling like,
or just pushing too hard. And,
my heart just wasn't in it anymore. I felt like I was making a lot of money for other people and I wasn't happy.
right. So it
So
wasn't coming back to rewards, emotional or just fulfillment type rewards back to you or to your family either, right?
yeah, not at all. Not at all.
Okay. And so you
Yeah.
took the plunge. That had to take some courage to walk away from a what I would call a blue chip job like that,
Yeah.
or a blue chip career, really.
It took a lot of courage. Yeah. It took a lot of courage, and it took a lot of confidence, I guess, in hindsight, because I had no idea what I was going to do when I left.
Oh, you quit cold.
I quit. I left cold.
Yeah.
Yes, I did not have another job to go to.
Yeah.
So, and now that I'm thinking of it, there was a little junket in between where I did consulting in the healthcare space, and also I did return to industry for a while. And that's when I knew for sure I did not miss industry. I felt a little isolated at home, and that's when I started my business and started being more public at conferences and speaking, and also doing what I really love, which is being on the stage and performing and laughing myself and making other people laugh.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah, that human connection, so important and so difficult to find, at least from my perspective. The COVID phenomenon is really causing a lot of isolation, I think, and a lot more than we can safely stand, I think, as a society.
I'd say at this point, I'm about to hear.
Yeah.
This much left. This much left.
We got to figure this out pretty soon. Hopefully by some safe means, anyway.
Yeah.
But
definitely.
So you got into improv for a while. You started a business, and then how did all that evolve into an interest in helping other folks with their career development?
Well, always when I was in industry, I mentored younger upstarts, kids who were just coming out of college or business school. And I also had a mentor, and I knew how important it was on the career journey to have someone to look up to, personally, and also for how important it was for me to give back. And so I found myself interviewing a lot of candidates. I found myself giving a lot of advice unrelated to the healthcare industry and more related to what it sounded like people were wanting to do, whether that was operations or finance or marketing or sales. So I thought, why don't I parlay this into a larger business on my own on the side to help people prepare to get into companies. So it sort of wove together the psych and the business background and my acting, because we do a lot of role playing in preparing for interviews. Because it's really important to get your message across very succinctly. And so I work with, in particular, recent college graduates to help them do that.
Oh, that's so important. Yeah, I've seen so many folks that don't have a clue how to interview. In a way, they don't even know what's important, right? So they'll take a question and they'll give a completely accurate but completely incorrect answer that doesn't leverage them at all, right? Or doesn't showcase their talents or anything like that. Super important. Now, how would let's say that you had all a full set of advertising, maybe a billboard in a given town or something, say, hey, landmydreamjob.com. How would somebody, a student driving down the road, leaving their placement office at the university and seeing your billboard, what would they associate your billboard with, or your brand with, as far as what you offer in the career space to help them move forward?
Well, I have a system called the Yulin method, which plays off of my last name, which is Yulin, and it stands for Unlimited Lifelong Income Now. And by mastering the skill set that I teach, I believe that you can establish through the Yulin method an ability to always make money, always find a way to get a hook with someone, whether you're in line at Costco, whether you're on an elevator up to the 20th floor with a stranger and they're like, what are you doing here? So sort of preparing you for life, because life is always about, you get that 20 seconds to make an impression, and how do you want to impress the person? What do you want to tell them about yourself? And so hopefully I can captivate and capture interest like that.
That is very cool. Yeah. So you're actually talking almost before the interview, right? The initial hook, the social meeting, or just having that elevator speech, so to speak, ready to go in a
Right.
natural way. That's huge.
That's
And then
huge.
yeah,
Yeah. A
go
lot
ahead.
of jobs, as you know, are never make it to Indeed or LinkedIn. They're often, hey, I know a guy, my neighbor works in the healthcare space. Would you like to meet with him? He designs, wound closure systems. Do you know anything about that? And it's just surprising how willing people are to open up and share their network with you if there's something that they can do to help you, and vice versa.
So do you find that for the candidate that might not know how to navigate though that uncharted water of that's outside of the posted or the public job market, if you will, and into this kind of this hidden job market, do you find that folks are held back more because they don't know who to talk to, or because they don't know what to say once they get there?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it depends where you are in your life cycle as a professional. So early on, if you don't have a lot of experience working for companies and that's what you want to do, excuse me, I just got to clear my throat.
Sure.
Early on in one's career, I think kids can get bogged down in, well, I didn't see any jobs that looked good to me. They don't realize that they have a whole network of people that they went to school with, through their family connections, through their place of worship. People know people. And so you really got to work it out there and have your story down tight. So I think depending on where you are in the life cycle of your career, that would really drive whether or not it's a shortage of jobs and how to look for jobs, or how to present yourself so that you're compelling enough to be hired. So what we work on through Land My Dream Job is a combination of both.
I got you. Okay. So you're actually taking in candidates and coaching them on who to approach, how to approach those people on those front end social conversations, as well as how to survive the 4-hour interview, the lunch, the dinner, everything.
That's right.
That's right. So grueling, right?
The 3-on-1 interview, the marathon interview. I know personally, I once had an interview with 8 people in one day, and it spanned the morning and afternoon, and they gave me no breaks.
Nope. Wow.
Not one break.
No nothing.
And 2 women who were interviewing me were actually eating in front of me.
Oh.
They never offered to take me to the cafeteria.
Wow.
Day. Fortunately, I brought some power bars and some water, so I was prepared.
Okay, I have to ask, did you get the job?
Did I get the job? I did not get that job.
Okay.
I did not get that job.
Okay, just curious. Yeah. Not that it matters at all, right? But
I think a lot of it was because I was so worn out. I was so unprepared for lack of breaks, and I'm talking about like restroom breaks and meal breaks. I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking, hey, before we get going, can I just jump off to the restroom?
Yeah, of course. It's only social, right? Yeah. And probably
and it told me a lot about the company too and the culture, so it's just as well.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if you're having to plan on working like that frequently, that would not be.
Yeah, and that's how they treated me before I even got through the door.
Yeah, that's not a good fit to life in general, right?
Absolutely not. That is a recipe for burnout.
Yeah. Now, does your system also help candidates to ferret out those potentially negative experiences so that they are focused in on kind of an optimized set of potential opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot in our work to finding my dream job about what I call the felt sense, which is sort of trusting your intuition and keying into that. I think kids largely are programmed now to like do their work, go to class, do the right thing, go to bed, and they're like automatrons, sort of like robots. And so one thing we talk about is, well, what feels right to you? What feels good to you? What do you want? And just to circle back to my interview, in hindsight, if I'd had more confidence maybe in myself, I would have said, can we take a break? Or, hey, looks like you guys got some great soup in the cafeteria. I didn't bring it. Can we continue this there? But
right.
I was very passive in the process, and I was very dutiful. So separating out sort of what feels right versus what doesn't, and really learning to trust your gut.
Definitely. Yeah. Super important. And so much not taught, especially in the corporate world. I don't think I have. Well, I think I have had a colleague recommend at one point to be intuitive about something, but virtually no one else would
Yeah.
want to trust or even hardly give credit to intuition. And
Yeah.
it's so powerful, right? Especially as a supportive.
Powerful source. Yep. For creativity, for enlivenment, for feeling, alive.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. In corporate America, there's not even any lip service paid to the value of intuition.
Right. Absolutely.
Very
and
helpful.
So much farther and probably have a lot more fun, right? In the process.
Have a lot more what? Fun?
Have a lot more fun. Yeah. To allow for intuition, creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Companies like in the past, people used to talk about 3M and say, well, 3M had the creativity day, and they were actually expecting and requiring everyone to play, right, for a certain amount of time every week. I wouldn't say how much, but a certain amount of time every week, and that was their signature move. Then the Post-it notes, and I think a lot of those key products that made them all the money were actually accidental, coming out of that creative.
Ivory soap was an accident that wasn't supposed to float.
Yeah. Exactly.
A lot of the best inventions are just done by mistake, and they turn out to be these wonderful inventions. So there's not a lot of margin. I feel like kids, when they graduate from school, they feel like, well, I've got to do it a certain way. And it's not like I teach kids to draw outside the lines. It's not that. It's more like, let's define our own lines. Let's see what works for us and see if we can find someone out there who appreciates that skill set in us and reinforces it, because the last thing you want to do is end up in a company where you're miserable.
Absolutely. Yeah. That doesn't work for either party, right? You end up with a lot of stress. We're talking about calmness here, right? I mean, that's the recipe for not being calm. If you're in an environment, fish out of water, can't seem to find your way, and it's almost by design, because there wasn't a fit to start with.
Right. I think that's true.
Now, for the candidates that reach you, do you find that most are relatively clear in their direction, or do they need some help finding the way that they really truly should go?
I've had a mixture of both. I've had people who are like laser focused, like I want to be a science teacher for reptiles. Okay. And they weren't really flexible about that. And that made our search very narrow and very deep. He wanted to be a science teacher at an aquarium. So there are only a certain number of aquariums in every city. So he applied to all of those. And it wasn't about us talking about other things, and he wasn't open to any other kind of work. Similarly, I had another person come to me who only wanted to do artificial intelligence, big data analysis for Major League Baseball. I'm like, can't be hockey, can't be basketball, can't be football. It needed to be baseball, and it needed to be Major League. I mean, these are like these plum spots that very few kids get a chance to do, but he ended up finding a great job. And then I have other kids who come to me who have absolutely no experience doing anything other than, well, I shouldn't say other than, nothing formal in the work sphere.
I got
you. So
how
do you,
through academics, if you will, right? That they know how to go to school, and they know how to
go to
survive,
school,
thrive in the school environment, but now they have to transition to the work environment.
Right. But a lot of them also have done what they consider silly jobs, like summer camp counselor, which is not a silly job at all. I mean, you're responsible for someone's kids and their livelihood through the summer. And so we try to translate what that camp experience was. How could that be parlayed into a job in a field that interests you? So I had a woman, for example, who worked in the maritime industry. She ultimately came to run one of the biggest boatyards in New England. She had a lot of responsibility as a young kid. She worked there for 5 summers. And by the end, she was running a big operation, and she never really construed it as, wow, you're right. I did do a lot, when I helped her break down the different roles she played in the marina.
Oh, cool. Okay. And then how did she end up parlaying that into her next job?
She parlayed that into a retail training program at TJX.
Okay.
So she was also very interested in fashion. So between her operations experience and her fashion interests, we kind of married them and found a spot for her at TJ Maxx. I knew people who had gone through their training program. It's very old fashioned, and you matriculate with the same 30 kids for a whole year, and you do internships throughout the company to figure out what it is that you like to do.
Awesome. Okay. And that worked well. And did she, if just to clarify that for folks that might not know, did that individual have prior fashion experience at all?
She had zero fashion experience, but she had a lot of operational experience. And she was also just very keen on the industry, and her enthusiasm coupled with her background at the marina made her a very attractive candidate by the time we were done working together, because she could sell herself.
Right.
And a lot of people aren't comfortable doing that at first. They feel like, oh.
Right? At least not at first, right?
At first. And then you realize, hey, I have a story and I can help people. So
right.
It's a worthwhile investment to flesh it out. And that's where I come in.
That's huge. Now, for that candidate who doesn't know his or her way at all, right? Who has no practical touch points. I don't want to say practical experience, but even those light jobs, the summer camps or whatever, didn't seem to amount to quite enough that they want to anchor on any of those. Say, take someone who just worked fast food and hated it. And then went to college, right? We just worked their way through school and said, okay, I've got a degree in, I don't know, pick something, animal science. Psychology. Okay. Yeah, okay, psychology. Let's do that. And I worked at McDonald's for my whole time, and so I can't leverage any of that, I don't think. How would you take them through your process to put them in front of something that would likely interest them?
Well, I mean, something that we all know is for restaurants, customer service is primary. So my kids also worked in food service before they went to college, and they found the benefit of interacting with customers, meeting their needs, exceeding their needs, upselling. There were lots of elements of what they did they weren't even conscious about. And there are ways to sort of label the different activities of what you were doing. For example, one of my daughters worked at a bagel shop, and she often sold brownies or cookies on top of the sandwich because she put them next to the register. And that would seem like an ordinary thing, but she was very adept at, saying, well, how about if we put some chips and soda on that, and it's only $1 more. And so she's the queen of the upsell, and she works in sales now, and she's great at bundling products.
Oh, nice. Okay. So even that which perhaps she didn't like, she was able to parlay that anyway, right?
I will never work in food service again.
Wow.
But she was a psych and film studies major and worked for 4 summers doing food service as a waitress, then as a server, as a bus girl. So there were a lot of skills she had interacting with the end client that turned out to be very useful when it comes to sales.
Awesome. Wow, that's a great story, and I think pretty critical for those who may not feel that they have generated any value. In the past on a job that perhaps they might view as low skill, but there's, like you said, there's still that human connection, human interaction.
Yes,
you can't help but learn as you go through those experiences.
One of my favorite stories is working with a gentleman who graduated from Tufts, who went to the West Coast after he graduated with, I think, a political science degree, because he wanted to work in the entertainment space. And he worked for 2 years as a physician, a PA, what is it called? A production assistant. And one of the images I have is of him running around town getting props for a photo shoot. And he had a convertible, and he was riding around with a dummy because they needed to dress up the dummy to be in the commercial. And so we talked about the elements of what he did to put together the commercial in terms of scoping out the space, making sure it had the right blue top on it for some of their color schemes. He had a lot of very detail-oriented roles as a PA. So when he came back to Boston, because he realized I can't make a living doing this, he wanted to apply to business school and really needed like a cohesive message around what his skill set was. So we worked on that together. And he's like, well, I just used to drive around with dummies in my car. And I was like, that's a great metaphor, for someone who little pieces and makes a show out of it, a commercial. He worked for one of Disney's leading pop shows in the country. So anyway, he just graduated from Cornell with his MBA and works at Citibank in their entertainment department. So it's perfect.
How cool is that? Wow. Yeah. And this is really illustrating some of the fits that you're able to develop with your clients.
Yeah. He's one of my longest term clients that I've kept in touch with, just to hear how his journey has gone.
That is awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let me hit you with one last question before we close for today. And I'm just thinking of the scenario, especially these days. I think this is happening quite a lot lately with the rapid sea change economic shifts that are occurring, and old business models are just almost expiring. Right? They're not even declining; they're expiring.
Right.
How would say a middle-aged individual who perhaps only worked at one or two companies and really developed a lot of skill sets and relationships that were very suitable for that company, but they're just having trouble seeing how they could leverage that in a future role, and then suddenly the unthinkable happens and they had to leave that role, and now they feel like they're out in the cold with nothing.
Yeah.
How would you work with somebody like that to kind of re-inspire them to move forward and find their next to find their dream?
Well, one of the first things I do is an exercise that I call journal busting, which is you take out your piece of paper and your notebook and you just write down streams of every single thing that you did, from arranging meetings, from analyzing sales spreadsheets, managing customer resource management databases, every single thing that you did while you were there. And by the time you're through with your journal busting, you've got this massive paper filled with, oh yeah, I remember I did that. And oh yeah, I made posters and increased enrollment in this kind of program. And oh yeah, I got people together on board and we started a new kind of campaign for doctors. And you realize when, in fact, you have a lot of really applicable skills that will translate to other fields of business, but also other functions that you could do that might even make you happier.
Wow, and that of course is the objective. Yeah, to work in something that truly makes you happy. With so few at find, but is so important. And really, that's, as I understand it, that's why you're doing what you're doing, right? To help folks find their way to not just calmness, but happiness. That's
right. Right, which is, and the two, as you know, are very linked. It's easier to be calm when you're happy and you feel centered and you're true to yourself, right?
Yep.
And you're following your bliss, what you should be doing.
Exactly, yeah. Where there's no incongruency and you're just flowing forward, right? In who you are and what you're here to do, your purpose.
Yeah, and I think part of the draw for why I love to help kids do that is I didn't have a champion I was my own champion growing up. I just sort of went where the tides took me, and I wish I had more direction. I mean, in hindsight, it all works out for the best, but I wish I'd had more direction and coaching, and there was only one person really early on who encouraged me to go into business, as opposed to doing direct patient care, which is where I was headed. I was going to be a psychologist. So,
clinical, right?
Yeah, I was going to do clinical psychology and help people one-on-one that way. But instead, I turned to the business side of healthcare. And that for me was explosive and just great advice that I got at a very young age, my second job out of college.
Awesome. So critical that you had that voice available to give you that advice, and that you actually then took that advice and your life shifted completely. And that's the opportunity that you're offering others through starting at landmydreamjob.com.
Right. So if folks want to go to that website, I offer an application process and accept students for 20-minute free consults if they're appropriate for my system and the Ullin method.
Awesome. So 20 minutes free upon application and acceptance.
Yes.
Starting at the application form is right there on the website, right? At
right on the website. Yep. And it comes right to my email. So yeah, I'd love to help out.
Awesome. I'm so glad you're offering that to everybody, to folks who apply. And
Yeah.
and I hope many in the audience will reach out, because there's definitely a lot of opportunity, and we've heard such good examples of the types of dreams, right, that can be created
Yeah,
through a happy marriage of individual and career.
precisely. I mean, think about yourself as a kid and how many dreams you had, and then think about yourself now, and the schism between what you thought you would do and what you are doing, and maybe just adjusting your sails a little bit to make it more blissful for yourself. That's all I would want for someone.
Absolutely, just to take in a bit more of that. I'm having trouble thinking of the right word, but yeah, just to take in a bit more of what those childhood dreams were, or
Yeah.
put a little bit of passion, inspiration back into it, right?
Right.
Absolutely,
Precisely.
absolutely, completely agree.
Yeah.
Well, Jenny,
Yeah.
it's been such a pleasure having you here with us.
Well, thanks so much, DK.
Thanks so much, appreciate it, and look forward to speaking again with you very soon.
I'm sure we
Center of
will.
Calmness.
Okay.
I'm DK Warner.
Have a good one.